And good evening, folks. We are live. The NEMRR off-season chat this evening. We're going to be talking to some of the people that are behind the lenses that make us all look good. Because I know I don't look that good, but man, I'll tell you, they get out there with the cameras and they make every one of us look like a MotoGP star. And with that, I'm going to pass it around. We'll do some introductions. We've got one more person that might be popping in. I'm not sure if Sarah's having some problems with her internet or not, but if she pops in, I'll definitely get her right on here. And with that, I'll pass it over to Robert. And if you would just introduce yourself, give us a little bit of background, your history in photography, and we'll just pass it right around the clock.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me tonight. I started my photography back in the late 70s, shooting film, darkroom. I'm not a career photographer. I am a civil engineer, but photography has always been my hobby. And it was probably 2 years ago, I heard about NEMRR, went up there for the opening race, and that literally hooked me, and I've been there for now 2 seasons. I've always enjoyed motorsports photography. I was shooting at Lime Rock, different tracks, cars. But for me, the challenge of shooting you guys was incredible. I mean, I was good at panning cars. The first race, I sucked at panning motorcycles. But it's just a blast to shoot you guys. I mean, I love motorcycles. When I was younger, I rode. And now that I'm almost 70, I'll be happy just shooting and making you guys look good. So.
All right. Well, thanks. Scott.
Yeah, I'm Scott Hussey. I've been shooting professionally since '97. I was the son of a commercial photographer. So as a kid, I always got the hand-me-down nice cameras. So, shooting like Robert, shooting film since the 70s. I was born in the 60s. So I started shooting at Loudon in 2018, I think. And I went there with a friend just to see it. And the very first photo I took was a shot of Andrew Spalding coming around turn 1. And he's got it printed apparently large in his living room. And I still have it as one of the screensaver images on my computer. It just absolutely set the hook. And I've been trying to come back every round ever since then.
All right. And Martin.
Yeah, so Martin Hanlon, racingislife.net. I don't really count myself as a photographer. So I'm a motorcycle racing guy. I raced motorcycles for a long time. I raced a little bit in the UK, and then I raced in the US. I raced at Loudon with LRS and NEMRR for 10 years. I think 2011 was the last year I raced. I was racing a motard. I think that year I finished, my huge claim to fame is I think I finished in the expert super singles. I think I finished 4th that year. So I did not get to go to the banquet and get a plaque. But I had stopped improving. I just could not figure out a way of getting any faster. By that time I didn't bounce on the pavement as well as I used to. I could not figure out a way of going faster. I got to American Super Camp to learn to ride differently and all kinds of stuff, but I couldn't figure out a way of going faster. So in the end, I decided I would stop and do something different, and wanted to stay involved with the sport. And I'm not really very good with the wrenches. I thought I could, sweep a garage here or there, but that didn't sound like that much fun. Corner working looked like properly working for a living, and I really didn't want to do that. So I thought I would try with a camera. So I only got into photography in 2011. So really the purpose of that was I absolutely loved motorcycle racing. I loved everything about motorcycle racing. So it was a way of staying connected to the sport and connected to the people in the sport. So for me, everything with a camera is about just trying to show how much I love motorcycle racing.
All right, and of course, I've been watching your videos as well, your interviews and your mid-season and all that stuff, and I love those. That's great. And last but not least for right now, we got Mr. Sam.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sam Draiss. I run Sam Draiss Photo, rebranded to Sam Draiss Media as of late because I want to branch into other things just besides photos. I also am the guy behind the social media for NEMRR, so I do all the Facebook and Instagram work with the help of Noel and John as they feed me constant things. But so NEMRR 2022 is my first year with them. First time I ever really saw motorcycle racing in person. I got hooked up with them through my buddy that I went to school with, Reese Bridey. He runs RAB Graphics, best paint, the best wraps you see on the track. And he's just like, hey, come check this out. I went and I fell in love with it instantly. Like shooting motorcycles instantly became so much better than cars for me in terms of just you can't get a bad shot. Cars, they can kind of look static and stuff, but you guys just leaned over, whether you can see the rider, and it's just yeah, that's it. Two-wheel photography is so much better than four-wheel. But in terms of where I'm at photography-wise, it's always been kind of like a hobby of mine, but nothing I really took seriously until about 2019, 2020. And I took a couple pictures in a NASCAR race, put them on Twitter, got noticed by a team owner, and I'm like, maybe I can consider this as more than just a hobby. So one thing turned into another, and ended up with NEMRR. That's definitely my favorite thing to shoot by far, and the group of people up there is unmatched, absolutely unmatched, and it's definitely that's the pinnacle of it for me.
Yeah, and well, I haven't met Martin yet, but I've met Rob, I've met Scott, I've met Sam. I've met all three of you guys at the track. I haven't met you at the track yet, Martin, but I'm sure maybe this year I'll get to meet you in person. So as far as questions, I was completely unprepared on what I should ask. You guys are out there, rain or shine, almost every event, and you're taking tons and tons of photos, and hopefully the guys are supporting you. I know I always will, as much as I possibly can, just due to the fact that my wife used to do it. And if I didn't support you guys, I'd be sleeping out in the shed with the bike. So and I got a question from Josh. Let's just do a question to get it started. What photo, motorsports or not, is the one you're most proud of? And it looks like Miss Sarah just popped in. So hold on to that thought. Let's get Sarah on here.
Hey guys.
Good
Sarah.
evening.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
So we started without you, but that's okay.
That's
You're
okay.
here now. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you as well.
And basically, if you would just give us a little introduction and your background in photography. And are you coming up for the Classic?
I am hopefully coming up for the Classic. That is the plan. I'm waiting for confirmation of being able to shoot there. So waiting on that. Started photography, I don't know, high school, I guess. Motorsports, I guess about 4 years ago. So not too long.
Oh, good. Well, if you can make it up, it'd be great to meet you. And
Absolutely.
I've already told the rest of the guys here. Back when I was racing my first go around, now that I'm back to racing again, but back in the 90s, early 2000s, my wife was a track photographer at Roebling Road, and
Oh, nice.
did nothing but motorcycles. But that's back in the 35 millimeter days.
Mhm.
That's when you race this weekend, you take the pictures, and then 2 weeks later, when you're at the next race, you set them all out and hope somebody buys them.
Wow.
The digital is just amazing nowadays.
Absolutely.
So anyway, We're going to go with a question, and we go right around the clock. So you'll be right after Sam. And the question, what photo, motorsport or not, is one that you're most proud of? And we'll start with Rob.
Well, this year I would have to say it's not a motorsports. In the area of Greene County here, we have a bicycle race called the Brinkerhoff. And last year I was actually shooting some Osprey with a 600 millimeter lens, and it was pouring rain. And I had forgot the Brinkerhoff race was on. And I turned and looked up 385, and coming down the hill is the peloton, just drenched with the lead car out in front. I snapped a picture of it. And some of you may not know, but I'm also a member of Professional Photographers Association of America, and I enter competition every year. In that image, I entered into the photojournalist class. It was picked as one of the top 10 Grand Imaging finalist images. It also got me on the U.S. team for the World Photographic Cup. And that the results will be this Friday. They judge in Singapore. But that's probably my image that I'm most proud of. It was a luck shot. I happened to be at the right place at the right time, but in competition with the professional photographers, it went a long way.
Very good. Scott?
Yeah, since I saw that question pop up, I'm sitting here thinking, I shoot 150,000 photos a year, and I've been doing it for a quarter century. There were 3 photos that came to mind. One of them was one where I crouched down in a swamp before sunrise every day for a month to get a photo of a stupid bird, and I got a great shot of it. Another one was I photographed the transit of Mercury across the face of the sun in 2017. And that was just, from a technological standpoint, that was really fantastic. But this one, oh man, of course the phone goes to sleep, was shot with a flip phone in 2007. And this is one of my favorite photos. It's just a sad little parking meter. It looks like he's crying. He's got a face. He's got expression. The color's great. It's like a 0.6 megapixel flip phone photo. And I just love it. It's still on my phone. Just because, I don't know, it's a parking meter with a face, and it looked like he had a story,
Cool story. And Martin?
Yeah, I think that's a really tough question.
Yeah.
I think it's a really tough question. The pictures I like the most are the ones that are a little bit different. After a while, everyone's got 100, 1,000 pictures of people at the apex leaned right over, knee on the ground, or elbow on the ground in one, for example. So I think maybe it's the pictures that are a little different that I think are the ones that stand out when you're going through them at the end of the day. If I think of a couple that come to mind, I've got one, I don't know when it was, it must have been maybe 5-6 years ago. It's Scott Greenwood crashed in 6, and the bike is sort of jammed in under the tires, and he's further around kind of looking at it with a slightly mournful look on his face. And I just sort of like that shot because he almost never crashes. So it's kind of news that he fell off. And then the fact that the bike is looking very sad, it's kind of on its side, it's kind of jammed under the tire wall, and he's looking at the bike and the marshal is looking at him. I sort of like that one. I got one of Bill Coolahan from what was the Turn 11 bleachers, which have now gone. So I guess I would never get a shot like that again. So it's shot with a long lens from right at the top of the Turn 11 stand, down start finish, and he's the only bike on start finish. And I sort of had the track at a diagonal going across the shot, and he's just looking over his shoulder, and there's no one else in the shot. And I sort of like that because it was just a little different. It sort of had a picture of the whole track and just this one line of the start finish going across the diagonal with him looking over his shoulder. It was just a little different from, just from the usual, I suppose. So it's shots like that, and they would be two good examples. I don't know if I could pick out one though.
All right, Sam.
All right. When you said that, a couple came into mind. I feel like it's kind of subjective sometimes because, like, I like pictures that some people might not like, and then people like pictures that I'm like, why? I throw one up on Instagram, it gets 80 likes. I'm like, why? I don't get it. Like that. It's But there's a couple that come to mind. One, probably my favorite in terms of just like depicting emotion, was at Loudon, coming up over the hill. Tommy Kinnear just on the cool down lap. He was just flexing his bicep coming up over the hill. And it was just like, the sky in the background was perfect. The colors on that bike and his race suit are just so vibrant. I'm like, all right, that was cool. Another one, I went up and shot one of Sergio's NEMRR races at Box Shop. And at the end of the day, they had a practice at like 5 or 6, and the sun was starting to go down. It was golden hour. And I saw in one of the turns, the inside of one of the turns, the sun was just kind of shining right on some dead like weeds. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to go sit in there and do stupid slow pans until I hit one. And I hit one with Sergio going through there on like a beautiful blue. And the weeds, because of the slow pan, kind of looked like gold sparkles on it. I'm like, that's exactly what I was looking for. I hit it. And I was really happy with that. And then the one that I show people that gets the most reactions, because people like seeing expensive things getting destroyed, is first lap of the Porsche Cup race at Watkins Glen this past year. I got a picture of Travis Wiley's Porsche GT3 car getting turned, and right as he hit the wall on the back end, like the side of the car got up in the air as he turned back around. I got a picture of that, and that always gets the most reactions. And it's just like, yeah, it's cool, but I was just lucky to be there. Like, I'm shooting to start. The settings were correct, as it was just right place, right time. But I guess those are a couple that I'm proud of.
All right. And Sarah.
This is a really hard question. I don't know if I can really think of any that I'm super proud of. I really enjoy, as I'm sure many of you know, the 310 split. That's I love that shot. I love being in the middle there. Any shot that I get in focus feels like pure luck, because it's so blind and they're coming around there so fast. So I've been proud of some of those. I think, again, not really motorsports, but a lot of the travel photography I've done, there have been some really special moments out there, whether it's, India or something like that. So I would say that there are definitely images in that catalog that I'm proud of. But motorsports, I'm such a perfectionist. It's such a battle. And I kind of agree with Martin. I'm a little bored of my own stuff. It's always the apex. It's like, rah. So I'm really trying to have a more creative eye and see things really differently, different perspectives, not necessarily just the knee and elbow down at the apex. So maybe I'll have something after this season that I can say I'm really proud of.
Well, I hope so.
I hope so.
Composure, getting that composure. I don't know how you guys even get the stuff framed up, because we're moving. And I don't know how my wife used to do it back then. She had an old Canon AE1 and a Minolta something 7 that had the cards that you put in it. That's pre-digital, but yeah, that boggles my mind. So on a normal race weekend, per se, just for one day, say Saturday's races, on average, how many photos do you take? And on average, how long does it take you to sort them out? And we'll start with Rob.
Yeah, the bad thing about digital is you can rattle off a lot of photos in a very short amount of time. Typically, from every race day, I will come away with 3,000 to 4,000 images. I'm shooting continuous. It's a burst. This year I'll be shooting probably at 50 frames per second with a new camera. But the first thing I do when I get back is I dump them into a software called Lightroom, and I literally go through, and it's all I'm doing as I'm hitting the X key. I'm looking what photos it's not framed right, what's out of focus, all that, and then I delete those. Then I go through them again. All right, this one's got possibilities. I give it a rating. This one, nah, but I'll keep it. And typically I will work Monday evening, Tuesday, Wednesday, and hopefully by around Thursday, I went through and I can cull that down to 80 some images from each race that I put up into my SmugMug account. But it's basically a full week after the race, evenings, going through them.
All right. Scott?
Robert's not going to like what I have to say. I am adamant about trigger discipline because I know every time I click the shutter, I have to do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
I will take typically about 1,800 photos on a typical race day. I have got them culled, so all the ones I've selected, before I start shooting the next day. A lot of times it's done before I go to bed. I'm dumping them into the computer throughout the day. I'm on my lunch break, I'm culling at dinner. When I'm at the track, I start working at 5 in the morning. I stop working at midnight. You will see the lights in my trailer on late into the night and early in the morning, and I'm not in there twiddling my thumbs. It is 100% work. Out of the photos that I take, round one, I get about a 60% keeper rate. By the time we get to round 4, I'm up around an 80 or 90% keeper rate. Panning, it takes a round or two to really get the pace down. By 5 o'clock Monday, every rider has their own gallery. Everything's been, every rider's photos are in their own gallery, and I'm done. So typical race weekend, I'll be putting up somewhere in the neighborhood of 3,000 photos finished out of about 3,600 that I shoot. But it's, first thing in the morning until late at night, pretty much nonstop until I get to 5 o'clock Monday. And my goal is to be done with it and have it all uploaded by 5 p.m. Monday. Because I've got work scheduled on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, So I've got to get it done.
Yep. And Martin?
So every weekend, I go to the track with the goal of taking less photographs, and every weekend I fail to meet that goal. So I normally take over the weekend 8,000 to 9,000 pictures. I don't shoot in burst mode. I don't find it works for me. I find that I can never get the bike where I want it. I get it just before or just after, so I like to go with just a single shot. I still mostly don't get the bike where I want it. I get it too soon or too late. But I normally end up with 8,000 to 9,000 images from the weekend. I used to look at them sometimes during the race weekend, but now with the video, I'm normally doing something in the evenings, Friday night, Saturday night, normally trying to get some shots around the garages at night or do some interviews, etc. So then I load everything up. I use Capture One. I used to use Lightroom, but I started to prefer Capture One over Lightroom. Doesn't really make much of a difference to me if I'm shooting JPEGs. It doesn't really make a difference to me. But if I'm shooting RAW, I find for me with the Nikon's Capture One does a better job with the RAW files. So then I go through my 8,000 or 9,000 images. I put them at 200% on my monitor, and I go through every single one, and that takes forever. I guess I don't know. I mean, I do it every spare moment during the week, and I don't sleep much during the week. So that typically I get the 8,000 down to about 2,000. I throw about 3/4 of the pictures away. They're either not quite sharp enough, or didn't quite get the focus, or the bike's in the wrong place, or the composition just didn't work. You end up with 2 bikes and a big space in between, and then when it's just not a good picture. So I normally throw about 3/4 of the pictures away, and then when I'm down to about 2,000 pictures, then I'll just go through, and I try not to do too much editing, but I crop everything, and then contrast is a problem for me, at least. I mean, we spend all this time shooting in the middle of the day when the sun's right above, and most of the racing in the summer, and you go July with all that horrible contrasty light coming straight down. Everything's either really dark or really bright, so you're just adjusting for crop, and then trying to deal with the contrast, and then maybe the color temperature a little bit. And there's always that purple tinge that comes up from the NASCAR track that I don't like, because I like to saturate the colors, because I like kind of really crazy colors. But it's that's why it takes me at least a week to get my pictures out, because I like to go through everything at 200%, because I want the pictures to look sharp, or as sharp as I can, even if they can't be sharp in every part of the image, because the thing's moving on its suspension, or it's the seat is shaking, or the fender's shaking, etc. So maybe not everything is sharp. But I think it just takes me a long time. So once again, of course, this year my primary goal in April will be to take less photographs, but the track record of history suggests I won't be successful.
And Mr. Sam.
All right. So throughout the race weekend, probably each day I'll take 2,500 to 3,000 pictures. Like everybody else here, it's it's hard to not take a billion, but I'm slowly learning throughout my young career that less is more sometimes. So I'm trying to get that down out of 2,500, 3,000 each day. So it's like 5,000 or 6,000 pictures. I probably keep about half of them. My keep rate's probably about 50%. Depends on what I'm doing. Some days I'm like, all right, I have creative streak in me. So that means the keeper rate's going to go down quite a bit, because creative shots, slower shutter speeds, there's a lot more throwaway. But in terms of we got on topic of workflow and stuff. Workflow is a little bit different, because, all my time during the day at the track, I'm taking pictures, and then I'm running back to the media center and putting social media posts together, which they might look a bit simple. At face value, they are, but I mean, each one of those takes like half an hour, 45 minutes, because I got to check back and make sure this information's right. Okay, well, here's the first draft. Says John, I know I like it. Okay, let's change the word in this. So that'll take up most of my time. I mean, most days I skip lunch because I got to go back out and shoot. So I'll run on granola bars and stuff. So, I mean, I get up at the track at 6, go straight to the media center, work. I'm done at 6 or 7, and then I go around and talk to people. Because, that was a big struggle for me last year, is just learning the names of everybody, because I got introduced at the riders meeting at round 2 last year. It's my first time at the track. I'm like, all right, I know 3 or 4 people's names here. Everybody here now knows my name and my face. So I go around like, hey Sam. I'm like, what's up, Scott? So that was a big struggle. But going home every week and sorting all the riders by their name and number, I got pretty much 90% of people's names down. But so yeah, I'll go out, and even then, I'm not gonna change that this year. I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna go drink, I'm gonna have fun, enjoy my time with people. And then Monday when I get home, I get up at 6 o'clock and I don't leave my desk till about, when it's done, probably about 7 or 8 p.m. I'm constantly just one straight throw, because I don't have time to go sort through stuff besides just grabbing a picture for social media here and there over the weekend. So I up all photo mechanic, sort through. That'll take 2 or 3 hours, probably just to weed out the bad ones. And then it's the sorting that takes forever. But I guess that's a bit of my workflow.
All right. And Sarah.
So firstly, Scott is definitely the outlier here. I don't know how he does it. I have no idea. It blows my mind.
26 years doing it
I
professionally.
guess so.
I've
I'm
learned
with
to
Martin.
edit before I take the shot.
Yeah,
There's
no,
so
that
much
is not
truth
me.
in that, Scott.
I remember maybe my 3rd round at Loudon, I approached Martin to ask him a few questions. And one of those questions was, how many pictures do you have at the end of a weekend? Because I thought I was just like an insane person. And he told me he was like 9 or 10,000, and I felt better. I'm glad I didn't ask Scott, because I would have been like, I am doing it all wrong. So yeah, typically at the end of a weekend, I easily 7,000. Takes me a solid week to get through them. I do a tremendous amount of editing. Like, that's probably the part I like the most. Pretty close. So I do a lot of editing, and every picture is done. I don't do really any batch processing, not even editing or anything like that. Everything just starts from scratch, which is not ideal, but that's just how I do it. So it takes about a week, pretty much every spare minute that I have, if I'm not working or in school. So it takes a while, but I usually end up with just a few hundred out of the 6,000 or 7,000. It's a process.
So, and by listening to you guys, going through my head, I'm thinking back in the day, film, darkroom, that, and now digital, it's just a trade-off. You're not in the darkroom anymore. Now you're sitting at the computer doing all this stuff, and you've probably got 150 times the amount of photos you would have if you were doing 35. So yeah, so it's like a big it's different, but it's the same. You guys are still working your butts off to get these photographs out there for people. So we had another question. And
Scott, the first round, I'm going to do what you do. I'm going to take it off continuous, and
it's the decisive moment.
I like that idea. I'll challenge myself.
It makes the rest of the week so much easier.
Yeah.
I used to spend 3 or 4 days of nonstop editing, and that was 3 or 4 days where I wasn't getting billable hours.
Right.
It was costing me thousands of dollars to shoot more photos that I was going to throw away. By being able to because I do this professionally, by being able to get billable hours Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it helps me control. I don't need to charge quite as much for what I did over the weekend, and it allows me to earn a lot more money than I would if I were coming back with 10,000 photos and having to slog through it.
So we got another question, and this is, I'll throw the question up there. What make and model cameras do you prefer for action pictures? Now, I know there's a ton of different cameras out there, and I'm sure probably none of you are using the same type of setup. So it's kind of a subjective thing. And my question to add on to that would be, what's your favorite lens for doing that? And we'll start with Robert.
Well, I think the key to me is the camera I use is the one that works for me. I shoot an Olympus. It's a micro four thirds system. It's a small sensor. But it just works with me. I know it inside and out. So when it's in my hand and I'm shooting, I'm not thinking about the camera. I'm focusing on what I'm seeing in the viewfinder and getting the image. I was the first 2 seasons shooting with a 300 millimeter Olympus lens prime. Last season, a friend of mine actually got the new Olympus 150 to 400 millimeter big white lens, and he let me bring it to Loudon for 2 races. And that was bad because once I shot with it, I knew I was going to have to buy one. So just after Christmas, I now own a big white lens for my Olympus. But I mean, it's an amazing piece of glass, incredibly sharp. The zoom ability to be zoomed out or zoomed in tight, it just works. And And one of the things I like about the Olympus system is the technology they build in. The image stabilization built into the camera is up to 7 stops stabilization. And the new Olympus that I'm shooting, it actually has what they call AI focused subject recognition. And I set the camera to motorsports. And when I bring that up onto the bikes, you see little white boxes form around the bikes. I select the one I want. And if it can find the helmet, it'll go to that and focus on the helmet. Same thing with cars, it focuses on the car. So it's that way it helps me get the subject quicker and make sure I'm getting focused. So that's the reason I shoot Olympus. But I mean, to me, I don't think there's any bad camera out there. It's really what works for you, what you're used to. And it's got to be an extension of your hand. When you grab it, you got to know where the buttons are, and it's just got to be natural.
All right.
I absolutely agree with you about there not being a bad camera out there. The worst camera produced today is better than anything Henri Cartier-Bresson had or Ansel Adams had. Ansel Adams shot large format because he had to, because that was the only way to get the kind of resolution he could get out of it. Yep. And today we've got, just everybody's walking around with a camera that's fantastic. But I shoot Canon. When I made the switch from film to digital in 2003, we bought a Canon 10D. And so today I shoot Canon because I started shooting Canon 20 years ago, and I've got a massive lens library, and I've got all this Canon crap. And to change ecosystems would be a pain in the butt. There have been a couple times over the years, though, where I have been very envious of the guys who shoot the OMD system like Robert has, because it's a smaller camera. You get much more reach out of much smaller, lighter lenses. That big white lens that you guys see me out there shooting with is about 12 pounds. And the cameras I shoot with the Canon R6 and the Canon R7. Prior to getting the R7, I had an even larger lens because I needed it, because the sensor in the R6 is so big. Most people won't understand what I mean, but photographers here will. The R7 is a crop frame body. And it does the same thing. They do the same thing with subject tracking. We can lock on a motorcycle. We can lock on the helmet. I actually find that when you've got 4 motorcycles, the camera's deciding which one to focus on. I just find that to be distracting. I end up just picking a small zone to focus. Mm-hmm. I just find it to be so much easier. I try to take as much of the tech out of the process as possible and just try to follow them with that one little focus spot. But yeah, it's the technology that we have access to now in these cameras is just mind-boggling, especially coming from a film background and starting out with large format cameras and things like this. I mean, you had to wind the film manually, had to release it. I just wasted a piece of film, but I didn't want to leave the shutter wound.
All right, Martin.
I was just thinking of manually winding the film on, given that I take 8,000 pictures a weekend. It would be, that was really, really sore wrists.
Yeah. You'd be wearing one of those things on your wrist.
Yeah, exactly. I think I agree with everything said. I don't think the choice of camera matters. I think if you looked in MotoGP, it's probably 65% Canon, maybe 35% Nikon, and maybe 10% Sony now. Probably the choices. I'm not sure actually that added up to 100, but let's pretend it did. I use Nikon or Nikon. I live in America, so I say Nikon, but I'm English, so I should probably say Nikon. I have a couple of D500s, so they have very good autofocus. They also have the crop sensor, so you get more reach, more magnification, essentially. And then I have 2 of the Nikon Z6s, or I have one Z6 and a Z6 II because for the video, and I'm starting to use the the Z cameras, I guess, for stills as well. But honestly, I think, I mean, if I didn't, I'd be perfectly happy with the Canon stuff as well. It's kind of this, the same story, so you start with Nikon, so you collect lenses and then you just stay with Nikon. But I think I could easily have gone with Canon as well. I'm not sure I would have gone with Sony just because of the way when I hold them, they don't feel quite the same way to me, but people get great results. In terms of lenses, I try and only use maybe 3 lenses over the course of the weekend, maybe change the lenses different race weekends. But I normally shoot with the 500 phase Fresnel 5.6 lens because that's small, and I can hand hold with a 500 millimeter lens because it's so small and light. I've got a 300 2.8, but that's heavy. The one lens I use the most is a 70-200 2.8. So I've got the original F mount, which I used to use with the D500, and I bought the Z mount, the mirrorless version of that, and that lens is incredible. And then maybe 1 or 2 shorter primes, maybe a 24 or 35 or something like that.
All right, Sam.
So similar to Scott, I shoot on Canon just because that's what I started on, and then as everybody's elaborated on, you kind of just get stuck in the rabbit hole of, it's not really worth changing because I have so much gear and so much money invested in a gear that only works for this. So that's definitely where I am stuck on Canon. Not stuck on, but I shoot on a Canon 1DX. This body's about 12, 13 years old now, at least the first iteration of it. When it was released, it was the flagship, sports camera model for Canon. Really, as far as I'm concerned, just all around, it was like the sports camera to have. And, over a decade later, it still is, like one of the top cameras. Like I'll shoot a couple NASCAR races for some editorials throughout the year, and I look around in the media center, I see 1DXs everywhere. Some of them newer iterations, some of them are that, original one, and they're relatively affordable compared to, especially new camera models today. There'll be several $1,000s. You get one used, they're very much affordable. I'd like to upgrade to an R7, which Scott has, and Scott is an incredible wealth of information, and he's always willing to help, which is amazing. So appreciate that, Scott. He set me up with some videos and learning about it, but finance is getting in the right line. Like to do that. Mirrorless technology is pretty cool. The AI focusing is it's pretty cool, but like Scott said, that does worry me if you're in a group, trying to wasting time with the camera, trying to figure out which one to focus on. And then in terms for lenses for NEMRR, I shoot with a 150-600 Sigma Sport 95% of the time. It's really not ever off the camera unless, there's, shooting around the garages, and I'll throw a 70-200 on there. But I mean, I'm sure as you guys know, lenses, definitely I invest more in lenses than I do camera bodies. More versatile. They affect your image quality definitely more.
The old saying, you marry your lenses, you date your cameras.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty true. Sarah.
So I'm also a Canon shooter. I have a Canon R5 and a 5D Mark IV. I have a couple of those. My main lens is a 70-200 2.8 for Loudon, just because everything is pretty close there. But I have learned over the past few years that other tracks are not so easy. In fact, this 200 is not helpful at most of the tracks I've been to. I have a 400 as well, but it's not as sharp. So it's always like a toss up between those two. And I do a lot of cropping. So the R5 has a lot more megapixels, so I can afford to do some extra cropping and make up for that 200 millimeter not being long enough. But for the most part, I got into Canon again, like these guys. I started out with it, bought lenses, and it wasn't worth trading. It just wasn't worth it. So Yep, I'm Lightroom user as well. So, and Photoshop. I'm not familiar with Capture One at all. But yeah, those are the tools basically for motor. I use a 35 millimeter prime for the garage shots, portraits, stuff like that. But that's it.
And you're down in North Carolina now, right?
I am. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, the southern tracks, you're definitely not as close.
Absolutely. I was just at Daytona this past weekend and it was tough. It was tough.
My wife tried shooting at Daytona and she used to shoot for National Privateer. It was a race magazine way back when. And Joe used to give her lenses to use, and she had like a 400, and it still really wasn't enough for some of the shots, because unless you're part of the Daytona crew, you can't get to the good spots.
Yeah, even so, I mean, I had a vest at Daytona, but even so, the 200 just wasn't enough for most of it.
Yeah, that's a big track, as are a lot of the tracks down south.
Yes.
It's just they've got more real estate to be able to do it, and not as many elevation changes as you have at Loudon, but of course, then you have Road Atlanta, which has all kinds of crazy elevation changes. That's probably one of the only ones that has that. So let's see, have we got any other?
Well, Samir's asking if we can make him look good.
Yeah, can you make 5'11" look good? I don't think so.
Okay. Keep the helmet on. It'll help.
Yeah, that was tough.
Keep the helmet on.
Yeah,
he's a good-looking guy. I'm joking.
So Samir's kind of like me, a face for radio, you know. And I just had him on not long ago.
Craig, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Now, you've been, to other tracks, obviously. You've raced other tracks.
Oh, all up and down the East Coast.
Yeah. How have you seen the race photography change, or is there a different culture, do you think, at Loudon than you've seen at other tracks?
Yeah, I think most of the other track. Now, I haven't been to a lot of tracks since I started back, because I just started back racing last July, and I hadn't been on the track in 20 plus years. But most of the tracks down south, a lot of them have got like their track photographer. They're the person that can get to all the really good spots, and then anybody else is kind of like shunned a little bit. And
I've never seen that anywhere else.
No. And it's kind of that's what I found, and only because my wife was doing it down there. That's kind of what I found. Now at Loudon, I've got all you great people out there, and it's fantastic. The whole Loudon experience has been different for me. The way they structure things, the family atmosphere, all the extracurricular stuff they do. Like when the racing's over, the day's not over. There's still a lot of stuff going on. I mean, I was watching Sam take his first ride on a pit bike there. What was that? Was that round 7?
I think so. Yeah.
I think it was round 7.
It was the time.
And then they couldn't get him off the damn thing. He was riding all over the place with it. But I mean, people walk around and talk to each other and have a good time. And but that, as far as the photography stuff goes, that's kind of what I found. Now, I was just down at Roebling Road. There were only 2 guys shooting there. One of them, he only shot on Saturday. Luckily, because he didn't get my big crash on Sunday. I haven't seen any video of it either. So I guess everybody was going instead of taking pictures. And then the other guy that was there was taking photographs for the Armor magazine. So, and he was only there on Saturday. So it seems like it's still kind of a one photographer kind of thing at the track. And I saw Sarah with a big smile, and I think she's probably run into that at some of the southern tracks.
Oh yeah,
Maybe you can
it's unreal.
expand
Actually,
on that. Is it still the same down there?
it is. Yeah, you can actually ask Bam Bam for a funny story about this because he was there for one. But there is a particular southern photographer that does not like me. She will literally walk in front of me and set up her tripod, like intentionally. Yeah, she will not say hello to me. I've had photographers try to tell me that the only reason I'm there is because I'm a female, and it has nothing to do with the quality of my work. I only got the vest because I'm a female. I've had people give me wrong information just to try to keep me from actually being there. Like it's been an unreal experience, but it has made me very grateful for Loudon. It's a whole different world. I was so welcomed. I mean, Scott and Martin answered all of my questions. They showed me around. They were such great like mentors when I started. It never felt territorial. But down here, it's very different. Actually, this past weekend at Daytona, I had a photographer snitch on me because technically I wasn't supposed to be there. But not yet. I have a credential, but they messed it up. So I had a vest on, but I didn't have the right credential. And they snitched on me for it, which I thought was not cool. Who does that?
They do
I'll
down
add on
there.
to that.
They do.
I'll add on to that. Like one word
Okay.
that covers it all is like gatekeeping. That kind of covers it all.
Yeah.
And I shot motorsports all over the Northeast, and that is everywhere. And I get it. Like if you have, the rights to the track and stuff, like that's your market. And it's not. Nobody chooses to be a motorsports photographer because they want to get rich off of it. So you want to, it's understandable to protect that. But that's what's so amazing about NEMRR is it's like this promised land. It's like nobody steps on each other's toes here.
Mhm.
We all let each other, do what we want to do. Like it was after round 2, I started selling photos last year, and I'm like, John said I could, but I didn't feel right because Scott and Martin and Robert, and so we got to round 3. I'm shooting under the billboards, and I see Scott walking over. I'm like, oh boy, this isn't gonna be good. And Scott's like, you ever try an 800mm lens? I'm like, of course this is like it is, because NEMRR, like it's incredible. Everybody
Mhm.
respects each other, everybody supports each other, and that is, you will never find that anywhere else.
Yeah, you got some good. You taking wheelie shots, right? I remember that. Yeah.
I mean, just getting you all together on here, I was like, well, how's this going to work? But but like I said, it's like a family. I mean, and Sarah, that I don't know if you can see that on your screen. That's from my wife.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So yeah, that was her roadblock back then. Was
Yeah.
she was only one of 2 females way back
Mhm.
when that was out there doing it.
An interesting thing is, so I've been shooting for Moto America, and 2 of the, I would say, most popular photographers are both females, which is really interesting. But they have not yet let me into their circle. Still trying. We'll see. But it's nice to see that there are more females out there.
Yes.
Territorialism doesn't really make sense when you think about it. The track is such a big place.
Yeah.
I know.
There is room for all of us out there.
Right.
There's room. We're all going to get different shots. You put Martin and Sarah and I all shooting the 310 split at the same time. And I've seen, there have been times where the 3 of us have been within 50, 60 feet of each other in the 310 split. And we're all shooting something completely different.
Right. We also all edit very differently.
Yeah.
So the final product is totally different.
Yeah. Some of us are getting the battles between guys, and some of us are getting more isolated shots. And it just, there's plenty of room out there for the number of photographers that we have. Now, if there were 50 photographers out there,
yeah,
you know, but the bigger tracks, like I've shot Pitt and Homestead and New York Safety Track and Thompson, you know, I've been Canaan. I've been to a bunch of tracks, even Canaan. Canaan is a small track. I shot up there. There were 4 of us up there, and we weren't crossing paths. We weren't in the background of each other's shots. I mean, if the track's 1.5 miles long, you've each got hundreds of yards of track to work with, all to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the small-minded territorial mindset just doesn't make any sense to me.
I think it says what kind of if you have that attitude, it says that I think to me talks about what kind of a photographer you are. Because I think most of us, we're trying to create, you know, we're not only trying to create documentary photography of a motorcycle racing event, we are trying at least in some way to create some kind of art, some kind of piece of art, some kind of representation of racing. And I think if your passion is that, then you want to see what other people are doing. You want other ideas. You want to, you know, and I think, you know, to the point you just made, even if you shot at the same place, you know, even if we all shot at the same place, the same kind of angle, the pictures would still look different because we're still seeing something different. We're still going to edit it differently. We're still going to crop it differently. We're still going to compose it differently, etc. And I think if you've got that gatekeeping, I like that word, Sam. I think if you've got that gatekeeping mindset, you're just trying to defend your little bit of turf. You're not actually that passionate about photography or the art or the creation of something. I think if you're looking to try and create something beautiful, something interesting, something exciting, you want to be part of a community that's bringing different ideas and different perspectives that you can, you know, that can inspire you or challenge you, etc., or bring a different perspective. You know, it's very strange to me that people would behave like that and really call themselves photographers.
At a racetrack, you think about it, if there was only one motorcycle in a particular class, he knew he was going to win because there's only one guy running. What's his motivation to get better? You know, competition, let's face it, we're all each other's competition out there. So what? You know, the guys out there that are racing, they're all each other's competition. And you'll see them take, the rain tire off their B bike to give it to their competitor so that they can get out there and race against them.
Right.
Yep. You know, that's sort of that's the culture of the community at Loud. And I think it sort of bleeds through to what we do as well. I think we're just sort of a natural outcrop of the type of community that the racers have created.
I think for me, what got me coming back after that first round 2 years ago was just the fact how much it's like a family there. Everybody was super friendly and just welcomed me. And that kind of attitude hooked me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm there as long as I'm free. I'm going to be there shooting pictures, you know.
Craig, can I ask a question? Can I ask
You
a
sure
question of the group? Because I'm getting interested now. I'm getting more and more interested. So what I am interested from the group is who their photographic influences are, or any sort of, you know, their favorite 1 or 2 photographers that they look at and they think, you know, it's I want to steal something from their style, or I'm inspired by what they do, or. So I guess we go to Rob first because we always start with him. So he has no time to think about the question.
Well, if you want, I'll start off. For me, where I started photography in the 70s, shooting black and white, my idol, and I still love his landscape, is Ansel Adams. In the 70s and 80s, I actually shot a 4x5 view camera sheet film. And I'm just drawn to black and white. I still love shooting film black and white today of landscapes. You know, so that's really the guy that got me into photography. So.
All right, Scott.
Henri Cartier-Bresson.
Okay.
The most expensive book I have ever purchased is right here. Okay. If you don't know who Henri Cartier-Bresson is, go Google it. And another one, which is kind of an odd duck. Martin may actually know about this family. This is not a single photographer. It's a family. Beacon of Cows. Martin, are you familiar with these guys?
I'm not.
They have been photographing racing ships in England since the 1800s using large format cameras.
Wow.
They're on boats,
Wow.
on the sea.
So they're hardcore lunatics. I like them already.
Shooting with. And I gotta show this because you will get a kick out of this if I can find it. If I can't find it real quick, I won't show it to you. But they invented a bulb that the photographer holds in his mouth. He's got to hold the big 4x5 camera like this, and he goes and chomps down on it when he wants the shutter to go off. But they just get some amazing photos of ships, these tall, racing ships in action. All this
That's cool.
beautiful black and white film. And they started doing it in the 1800s. The family is still photographing these racing ships today with modern cameras. And it is truly just absolutely inspirational. I've worked 4x5 cameras. I still have one. And they're monsters to use. They are slow and deliberative, and they're shooting racing. It's just mind-boggling how they're able to do it.
And Martin, I'm going to skip you for now, but we're going to put you on the hot seat.
Okay.
And you can answer your own question, and we'll go to Sam.
In terms of influences, I would have not gotten started in this, or at least I probably wouldn't have come across it if it weren't for just my dad. He gave me my first camera and did a lot of local journalism and stuff. And that's actually how I met Robert. So I always think it's hilarious to make a point of this. I live about 4 hours from the track, and so does Robert. He lives probably like a mile or two from me as the crow flies. So we both come from so far out, and we're neighbors. Like, yeah, hi. So that's how I met him. I knew Robert well before NEMRR, and I've been around him. But in terms of like photography influences, besides getting started with my dad, I mean, I'm not incredibly passionate about anything besides motorsports. Like, I enjoy taking pictures of other things, but like I am super hyper focused on motorsports. So in terms of that, I mean, Jamie Price, of course, is like the standard for that. And, Lime Rock Park staff photographer Sean Pierce, he helped me a lot. I mean, even the guys, just sitting here with us, like, going before I ever shot at Loudon, I'm like, okay, well, I got to go map out the track. So what do? Well, I look up who's there. I look at, I find Scott's, Martin's, Roberts, just to get an idea. And I mean, you can't pin on anybody because, I see one thing and, I might take a bit from that, whether it's, a picture of, I don't know, a corner worker at Loudon or, whatever else I'm doing, everybody around you is an influence in some way.
All right. Sarah.
So for motorsports, there is a guy named Rob Gray, and he is a MotoGP photographer. His Instagram is Polarity Photo, and I find him to just be absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
That is like my ultimate motorsports inspiration. As far as other things, I can generally just say National Geographic, like Steve McCurry style. Travel photography is really my ultimate photography passion. Motorsports kind of came as like I was going to be at the track anyway. My partner was a racer. I liked photography. I started doing it, and then it just went from there. But travel was always where my heart really was, behind a camera for sure. But check out Rob Gray. He's amazing.
And now on the hot seat, Martin.
So there's a guy, Frank Hurley. So you were talking, Scott, about the big cameras, 4x5s and all this sort of stuff. So Frank Hurley was Australian and therefore a lunatic. He went with Shackleton the expedition to the South Pole, which all went horribly wrong, and the boat sinks and they're stuck on the ice, and then they have to walk across the ice, and they take their small boat some way, and then some of them go for help, and he's photographing all of this with 4x5 and glass plates, etc. And the photographs are fantastic. So he photographed that. He photographed in both world wars. I think he photographed in Korea as well. I mean, just incredible stuff. I just don't know how he did it. So he is one, because I just don't know how he survived as long as he did, let alone actually taking photographs with great big cameras.
Glass plates are not as light as film.
No, exactly. And then I think in MotoGP there are a lot, and Gareth Harford maybe, and then the polarity photo. There's also Joshua Paul in Formula One. So he started Lollipop magazine, and he's done again a lot of large format photographs of Formula One, of race cars, and portraits of drivers and portraits of the teams working on the cars. And they are just, to me, they're incredible, because they are just so different to what you normally see. Again, there's a lot of fantastic Formula One photographers. I like a lot of the stuff that Darren Heath does in Formula One. A lot of the very slow shutter speed stuff is just incredible. But the Joshua Paul large format stuff for Formula One, it's like, wow, it's just so different. I just don't know how you take that with a conventional digital camera. And it's this whole idea of showing something that you've seen before, but making it, showing it in a different way. I think it's just fantastic what he does.
All right. So let's see, we'll be going a little over an hour. I like to try and keep these at an hour, but I was just amazed that I was able to get all of you on a schedule. First off, that amazed me. And I don't know if I want to do this last question or not. Do I really want to put the racers on the hot seat? And I think I should. And I think I will. So we'll do this last question. And this is for all you guys out there watching this video, and you see these folks at the track, and then you don't buy any pictures from them. So I'm putting you guys on the hot seat, and I'm going to go around the clock. Out of all the photographs you take, the albums that you put together and all of that, what percentage of racers actually, or a rough estimate, actually come out and support you? Rob?
I think I would almost say 40 to 50%.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, they may not buy every round, but during the year, I would say 40 to 50. And to me, I'm happy if I cover my expenses for the weekend. I don't go there as a money-making operation. I shoot there because it challenges me as a photographer. And one of the things I'm going to be doing this year in PPA is entering more of my motorcycle racing images and see if I can get one of those to go to World Cup. But for me, if I cover my gas and lodging and all that, I'm happy. It's more, I just love shooting, and I love the challenge of capturing you guys.
Awesome. That really surprised me. Scott?
Yeah. Typically, it's in the neighborhood of 30% of the rider galleries that I put up will have at least one photo purchased from them. Some riders buy the entire gallery. Some people wait till the end of the year and then buy. But from a given round, it's right around 30%. I also understand that not every rider, some guys are there on a shoestring budget, and then they they run out of talent, and now they've got to rebuild a bike, and they don't have the money for it, and that's totally fine. You know, I set my galleries up so they can share the photos for free. So if they want to use the share icon, still share the photos on social media, they can do that, because I get it. Sometimes you just can't. The one thing I think all of us will agree on, people stealing our photos, you know, screenshotting and then sharing. Boy, that's a quick way to never get photographed by me again. I'll tell you, every year I've got a list of riders who I'm done shooting for the year. It's usually only 2 people because I make it known. But if you steal my photos, yeah, you won't get a second chance to steal a photo from me. You know, you don't have to buy it. You can share it for free, but don't steal it.
Martin, how about you?
Yeah, I'm honestly not sure. I don't know the way I, you know, mine are normally in one gallery for the weekend, so I'm not sure I can really track sort of the coverage. I mean, my goal always, honestly, my goal is not to sell a lot. It's what I really want. What's always most meaningful to me is when people say they you know, that's the shot they've got up on the wall, or it's the shot they've got in the garage, or it's the shot they've got on the wall, or it's the shot they gave their sponsor, etc. Because, you know, again, it's like you shoot everybody every weekend. It's like, okay, it's like, I don't know how many shots I've got of, you know, Scott Greenwood's in two practice. He's out in the second practice on Saturday and Sunday, and then 7 races, and he's at the sharp end of the field. So I probably end the year with 300 pictures of Scott Greenwood. You know, it's like, you know, they're not all that. You know, once you've seen one, you've probably seen 300. So I think for me, it's not so much selling a lot, but it's if I've got the picture that someone said, oh, that's the one I'm keeping for this year, or that's the one that one particular picture was special, or that was the one I kept, that's the one I printed out. I think that's what I'm aiming for in it. And I seem, you know, I get enough feedback from people that's what they're doing, that says, okay, so it's like we're creating some images that are meaningful, I suppose.
Sam?
Yeah, I'm in the same way. It's just like, it's more just like, you know, when I'm working up there, my focus is definitely more on the social media thing, because, you know, that's my job. That's, you know, what I'm there for. And, you know, in turn to that, I do take a crap ton of pictures, and I'm allowed to sell them. So I'm like, all right, you know, I will. I don't go with any expectations, you know, with the community we have there, they are very supportive. And mine's right around where Scott said his is, probably about 25 or 30%. And throughout the year, you know, it'll be probably above 40% of the riders who'd buy pictures, whether it's just one and most of them, I would say probably well over 50% of the sales are super street and amateur, you know, because those are the guys that haven't been out there that long, you know. For example, like Mark was saying, you know, what point does Scott Greenwood have, you know, buying a picture? I don't blame him for not buying a picture. You know, he's had tens of thousands of pictures taken. I'm like, I don't ever expect him to, and that's okay. I wouldn't want to. I want to, you know. Scott's
Eric Greenwood once, Eric Wood once bought a photo from me, and I was like,
yeah, I got one out of Eric Wood this year, and I was like, wow, it was kind of surprising, you know, because yeah, I mean, if I race there every single week for, you know, years on end, I wouldn't have any reason to buy any pictures unless I have a new bike out there. So, but yeah,
I do. I have a new bike this year, guys.
Well, Craig supports us anyways, so we'll just make sure to make you look extra good on the new bike this year.
If you could only make me faster. How about you, Sarah?
I would also say probably about 25%. I do a similar setup that Martin does, so it's just one big gallery. So it's hard to say, but I would say probably about 25%. Definitely agree that the amateurs buy the most of them. Try shooting Moto America and selling even one photo. They do not care. But yeah, it's similar to what Martin said as well. What really stands out to me is when someone shows me a picture of the picture hanging on their wall.
Yeah.
Or even if it's just the background of their computer. That makes it all worth it. And then of course there are the sadder situations that we've witnessed over the past few years where we can all come together and create a beautiful book of these moments of a rider to give to their family. And we've done that a few times, which has also been incredibly meaningful. So it's really, I'm out there because it's fun. I definitely don't do it for money. That's not really my drive. It's nice when I can pay my expenses or even just like the Smug Mug account that costs money every month just to be able to keep that going. But for the most part, it's just something I enjoy doing. It's a good challenge. Every single time I nail a shot with a slow shutter speed, it's like, yeah. So it's just a good time.
All right. Well, I guess I really didn't really call them out that bad. That's a much higher percentage than I thought it would be. So, and I think a lot of that's got to do with the digital stuff because it's more accessible to the riders now than it was back in the day where you go to one round and then the next round. And if that guy doesn't show up for that round, you might not see him for. So my wife used to carry this big, gigantic, humongous box with all the weekends in it and the proofs. And it was a nightmare. But anyway, I want to thank you guys really a lot for coming on. Yeah, we've been going for about an hour and 15 minutes. It's just one of my longer ones. I couldn't believe I got everybody's schedule to work and got all of you guys together. Sarah, look forward to you coming up this year for the Classic. Hope to meet you.
I can't wait to
Martin,
see all
I'm
of you
going to
guys.
meet you this year for sure. And the rest of you guys, I'll see again. And I'm going to do my little ending spiel. So if you guys are just hang in there for a minute until we go offline. And so, guys, thanks for tuning in this evening. These are the folks that are behind that lens. You need to keep supporting them just so they cover their expenses for being there because they're really not there, as you just heard, to make money. They're there because they love it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. I really got to get my subscriptions up. Please share this far and wide. And let's get my subscriber count up. My other account, I got tons. And this one, since I just started, I'm trying to get it going. Make sure you hit the bell for notifications anytime we go live, anytime I upload any of my racing stuff. And thumbs up helps the algorithm a lot. So if you're out there riding on twos, keep the shiny side up, rubber side down. And as always, have yourself a great day.